Winners and losers from the George Pickens trade. Big Deke news. These are some of the best reactions to the Pickens trade news that I saw yesterday. From Twitter, Pickensburg, this is 100 times worse than the Luka trade. And then from some of you guys on YouTube, I'm a grown man. I literally almost fell to my knees and cried. We're cooked. This is absolutely brain dead. I'm done. This team has no chance. I'm done. F this team. Got no compensation. I can't do this anymore. Tank 2025. I was honestly looking forward to the Super Crash Out Bros. Grab your non-losing season champs hats and tees at Acrisure Steelers store. I think they're 99% off right now. Man, I couldn't even get through that one without laughing. Bob Nutting had beers with the Roonies yesterday. Some are thrilled that Pickens is no longer a Steeler. Best move of the month. And some aren't concerned at all and feel like we already have his replacement on the roster, an undrafted rookie free agent, Rock Taylor. Cheers up, brother. Rock Taylor is going to be dynamite. Remember this name, Rock Taylor. I don't know where this Rock Taylor hype is coming from. I need some of that you guys are smoking to get to that conclusion. He looked good at Memphis. I'll give you that. Like, whenever I was talking about the undrafted rookie free agents we signed, I was saying, yeah, he may have a chance here. Like, I like his game, smooth receiver, consistent catcher, but damn, to like not even be worried about Pickens being here anymore, that Rock Taylor's just going to step in here and replace him. I don't know what you guys are on. I know my takeaway. One of my key takeaways from all of this is that I know now to never trust what Omar Khan says to the media.
We're glad we have George and DK here. I think they're going to be exciting for everyone to watch.
I had a really solid exit meeting with GP, and I can tell you that he has a desire to be great. He has a desire to be great here. We have a desire for him to be great and to be great here.
But apparently trading George Pickens had less to do with Omar Khan, as it was more of a Mike Tomlin-led decision. According to Mark Caboli in his tweet/article titled "A Steelers Trade That Made No Sense and All the Sense in the World." Isn't that the truth? What a headline. What a way to sum all of this up. He says, make no mistake about it, Tomlin, who has gone out of his way in the past to defend Pickens, is the one who decided that the Pickens rehabilitation project needed to end a year early. The ultimate decision had very little to do with general manager Omar Khan, although he signed off on it too. And of course, it was okayed by team owner Art Rooney II. Pickens didn't ask for a trade. It was the Steelers who decided to ship him to the Cowboys. So if the guy who's considered one of the more player-friendly coaches in the league, and that same guy also defends Pickens at every turn, despite Pickens proving those defenses wrong every step along the way, if that guy in Coach T decides it's time to move on, then it's probably time to move on. Because if you look at all these recent Steeler receiver trades that have taken place, they're always a little confusing in the moment. Martavis Bryant for a third-round pick on draft day. It's like, what the hell are we doing? AB for a fifth-round pick that ultimately ended up being a third-round pick. We just traded the best receiver in the league for only a third-round pick. What the hell? Deontay for Dante Jackson. All right, Dante Jackson's not bad, but what are we doing at receiver too? Claypool for a second-round pick. But then you see how they age, and they all seem to work out in the Steelers' favor. It seems like we know what we're doing by picking the time to move off some of these receivers. I think the saying or the mantra is now that if the Steelers are going out of their way to trade a receiver, then that team that is negotiating with the Steelers should probably proceed with caution. Just ask the Raiders. Ask the Bears. I think those teams have learned their lessons. Now the Cowboys are taking their first swing at it. They're effing around with making a trade with the Steelers, and we'll see if they find out. My bet is they are going to find out, and it's going to end in disaster in Dallas, which is the perfect segue to my next segment, and that is the winners and losers from the George Pickens trade. I initially thought there were no winners with this trade. I thought every aspect of this was losing. Steelers, Pickens, Cowboys. But as I said on yesterday's show, the more I think about this, I think the Steelers are ultimately going to win out. Right now, it sucks. On paper, it doesn't feel like we're getting better. But for the long term, I think this is the right move. And I even think you can make an argument that this is the right move for 2025. Even though, again, on paper, not having George Pickens isn't helping you out. But what may be helping you out is the inexplainable. Like, not having George Pickens on the team could help with the vibes, help with the team chemistry. And that does have an effect on a team winning or losing and just what the overall results are for a team throughout the course of a season. I brought up the Claypool example. I think that's a great example for this. For whatever reason, you remove a guy that you took in the second round, a really talented receiver, a guy that gave you 800 yards in his first 2 seasons, was having a halfway decent year 3. You're moving from a team when it doesn't seem like the smartest move at all. You just installed a rookie quarterback, Kenny Pickett. You figure he could use all the help that he could get with weapons. But right after we traded Claypool, we got better. After the bye, 7-2, almost made the playoffs. Way better than what it looked like with Claypool being here. So I think the same can be said for Pickens. And you can replace his production to an extent with a receiver that you pick up here in the future, whether it's Amari Cooper, Keenan Allen. That's a conversation for another day. But you combine the new pickup with some of the younger receivers stepping up, like a Roman Wilson and a Calvin Austin. Who knows what a Robert Woods does. And the production can be replaced. But if you're able to remove some of the negativity that Pickens brought to the table, then that's the case for us being in a better spot without Pickens in 2025. But in the long term, I really think this is going to work out, especially if we weren't going to re-sign him anyway. I think that's pretty clear. We get a third-round pick for him as opposed to him just being here for 1 year. We lose him for nothing. Now, I get if we lost him, some people are saying we could have gotten a third-round pick compensatory for him. Like, that's no guarantee either. You don't know how the season would have worked out and everything. You don't know if Pickens would have tanked his value. Like, there's a lot up for debate with that. But I think what we do know is the Steelers weren't going to re-sign Pickens. They didn't view him as a long-term fit. They thought the headache was weighing more than his production on what he brought to the table here in Pittsburgh. So, like, if all that's the case, it was just time to move on. Now, you can argue about the compensation, the timing of all this. This wasn't just a 100% slam dunk win for the Steelers. There are losing aspects, it feels like, to their side of this trade. But I think overall, this is going to be a net positive. This is going to be a win for the Steelers. I think another thing that sucks is we just got robbed of the potential on-the-field combo of Pickens and DK Metcalf. I just felt like we were deserving of seeing that, just seeing that experiment for 1 year. I would have loved to have seen it. I know a lot of fans would have loved to have seen it. But from a business standpoint, from a future standpoint, and again, you could even argue from an on-the-field standpoint in the short term and the long term, this is going to be better for the Steelers. I think we can breathe a sigh of relief, like just breathe in some fresh air here. We're restarting. We don't have to be walking on eggshells with Pickens. We don't have to worry about what he's going to do if he doesn't get the ball to the amount that he's expecting game in and game out. Okay, we got what we think is a bunch of team-first guys in here focused on one goal. Let's see if we could prove the doubters and haters wrong in 2025. But again, we're also set up, I feel like, really good for the future, 2026 and on. Now, from the Cowboys standpoint, I get why they took the swing, but I think ultimately this is not going to end well for them. We already talked about the Steelers' track record of moving off of star, talented, maybe somewhat disgruntled receivers, and it doesn't work out for their next team. What makes Dallas think this is going to be unique? Pickens is going to be different. I think he has more talent than a lot of these guys, but he wasn't better than AB. I don't know if he was even more talented than Martavis. I don't know if he did more than Martavis. When Martavis was in a Steeler uniform, when he actually played games and wasn't suspended for weed, who was better, Martavis or Pickens? I think that's an argument up for debate right there. Deontay Johnson has better stats than Pickens over the course of his whole Steelers career. I still think Pickens is the better receiver. But, like, what makes Dallas think this is going to turn out so much better for them? Could you argue Pickens is worth that third-round pick based off his talent and the production, all that? Yeah, absolutely. But you also got to look at the business side of things. He's only got 1 year left on this deal. It's not like they have him for 2-3 years, like, locked in. 1 year deal, and there's a decent chance that this ends up being a 1 year rental scenario for the Cowboys, that they gave up a third-round pick for nothing long-term. Just to see what the Pickens experience is like for 1 year, but then it ends in a way where they don't feel like re-signing him to a long-term deal, and you're out of a third-round pick for essentially nothing when you're sitting there in 2026. This gets the fans excited. I get why Dallas took a swing on this. You need some pop with this roster because right now they were looking pretty desolate. I think they still are. I don't think Pickens is the one that's going to be game-changing and all of a sudden the Cowboys are in legit Super Bowl contention. You still have Dak getting $60 million. You still have Brian Schottenheimer as your coach. You have CD Lamb getting a ton of money. Michael Parsons is about to get a ton of money. Like, where is the rest of, like, your roster? Where is the substance? I think you're just always going to be limited with the foundation you have in place and Dak getting the amount of money that he's got. So there's a good chance. Again, Pickens is just a 1 year rental. You don't end up signing him long term, and it's just a lot of distractions and noise, and you finish the season irrelevant when it comes to your Super Bowl chances and actually doing big winning. That's how I feel about it from the Cowboys standpoint. Now, Pickens, I have him in the losing category too. This one's tough because you can make an argument he's stepping into a better offensive structure. But for his long-term prospects, I don't like it because you want to talk about scrutiny and the spotlight being on Pickens here in Pittsburgh. Now he's in Dallas. Lights are brighter. And we could argue about, should the lights be brighter in Dallas? No, because what have they done over the last 30 years that actually warrants the attention that Dallas gets on a week in and week out basis throughout the course of the season? But we know Jerry Jones is all about the marketing, the headlines, and all that stuff. But we know what comes with being on the Dallas Cowboys. You went from a situation where your head coach, Mike Tomlin, defended you every turn and stuck by you despite your shortcomings, to now the Dallas Cowboys, who, I mean, who's going to have your back like that is my question. Who has that sort of affinity for you? The Cowboys didn't draft you. The Steelers drafted you. And then again, despite some of the stuff, your antics, Tomlin was defending you every step along the way, was keeping you in the lineup, was still giving you snaps. We were still getting you the ball. So I'm just wondering, like, who's going to be by your side? Who's going to have your back like that in Dallas when things aren't going well? And based off Pickens' track record, there's going to be some moments this upcoming season. Now, this could be the breaking point for him. Who knows? Who knows what the future holds? This could be the breaking point where completely turns over a new leaf, just is focused on the work, doesn't have any of the immature stuff happen, and he goes off, has a great season, and, you know, gets a second contract with Dallas. But what are the chances of that happening? There's a risk-reward aspect to this. There's this, 50-50. Who knows what could happen? Who knows? But if we're going on off history, there's a good chance this doesn't work out and you get more of the same from Pickens. And I'm just wondering, is the Dallas Cowboys the right situation for that? You could argue about Dak Prescott. You have more security at quarterback with Dak Prescott versus what the Steelers have going versus what the Steelers had in the past while you were here. You can make that argument. I get it, but I don't know. I just think overall surroundings and the fact, too, it's like, what are we talking about with Dak? Like, why is everyone thinking, like, Dak's this elite quarterback? The dude's been solid. He's been average. He's been good. However you want to describe him, but it's ultimately never been good enough. And I don't think he's getting any better as time's going on with him having some of these big-time injuries coming off this most recent one that shortened his 2024 season. He's going to be less mobile. And even before he got the injury, he was playing bad. He was actually playing pretty bad. So, yeah, with Pickens, I think he's going to lose ultimately in this one. In the offseason, when we're sitting here right now, you're looking at the Cowboys roster on offense, the depth chart, all that stuff, the quarterback position on paper versus what the Steelers got. I get how you could sell yourself that Pickens is winning out. I don't see it working out, though. I really don't. Going from an organization that has some good foundation, good structure. We have our shortcomings. Don't get me wrong. We have our shortcomings. But going from what Pickens had with the Steelers to going to Dallas with some of the chaos that they got going on there, I ultimately don't think it's going to work out for Pickens. Now, I could be wrong. This could be the breaking point for Pickens because there are reports that he doesn't even want a contract extension. He wants to prove everyone that he is a top receiver. Then he's going to hit the market in free agency. That's a good sign. That's definitely a good sign. But I'm wondering if that was the case, why didn't the Steelers keep him then? Like, does Tomlin know something? Do the Steelers know something that we don't? So that's it for today's episode. I think that's a good way to close out the show. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments. Stay chilling. Peace.